Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Bree. I know I'm doing more videos this week than I'm used to, but that's partially because I didn't do that many videos last week and I'm just kind of bored and want to do some videos. So I know I'm doing a lot more video game topics than I also normally like to do. I try to do like one or two video game topics a week, so it's not just a video game channel because I don't want people to expect me to only do video game videos. But today I'm talking about sports video games because these are the topics that interested my brain this week and I feel like talking about. Sports video games are interesting because they kind of have a bad rep among gamers or people who can identify as gamers, the quote core gamers. And I'm not going to use the word real gamers because if you play fucking Angry Birds, you're a real gamer. I don't give a fuck. Games are games. Enjoy gaming how you enjoy it. Don't let anybody gatekeep you from gaming. If you want to call yourself a gamer, you're a gamer. End of story. Um, So I love video games. Always have, always will. And yeah, like I've said a bajillion times, I'm relatively poor. Was even more poor as a kid. So I had limited access to video games. And you know what games are inexpensive? Sports games. You know who hates sports? This girl right here. I hate sports. Now, I've learned to appreciate sports in more recent times, thanks to my girlfriend who has an appreciation for sports and has helped me see things differently than what I had previously assumed about sports. Um, but sports video games are interesting because when they release during the season that the sport is going on, whatever it is, football, basketball, soccer, whatever, the video game is in high demand. Everybody wants it, so it goes for an exorbitant amount of money. But then the day after the season ends, the Super Bowl is over, the playoffs are done, the trophies are handed out, people have moved on, all of a sudden the game is clearanced to nothing and it's given away by the stores. They're like, get rid of it. We don't want it. It's taking up space. So they don't have resale value with a couple of exceptions. And I mean a couple of exceptions. The original John Madden NFL football has some resale value because it's the first one in the series and it's on hardware people actually like, the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis. So there is a market for people who want that game. Um, NBA Jam was a mega hit. Everybody loved NBA Jam, so they want NBA Jam in their collection. So that game has resale value, you know. But like, College Hoops 97 is sitting in a fucking shelf on a stack of 35 other copies of the same goddamn game with a 99-cent price tag on it. Nobody's fucking buying it because nobody fucking cares. There's no interest in it. There's no market for it. There's no resale value. Now, there is a couple of people who have an interest in sports video games. One, the people I somewhat inaffectionately, but kind of just passively refer to as the dude bros, sports fans. These are people who buy an Xbox and they only play Madden and Call of Duty, and that's it. They're still gamers. I don't judge them. They're gamers. They'll buy Madden every year. They'll buy NBA whatever every year, FIFA whatever every year, etc. And then they'll buy the new Call of Duty, and that's it. And that's all they do. Those people exist. They're just as valid as the people who play Zelda or Final Fantasy or Last of Us or whatever. They're just as valid. However, uh, they promptly get rid of last year's game when next year's game comes out. They do. And so there's this constant rotation of sports games hitting the used video game shelves nobody fucking wants. So there's a couple of habits I've observed. You have completists. You have the collector, whoever it is, who wants a full set, whether it's NES, Super NES, Genesis, PlayStation, whatever. You'd have to be insane to go for a full set for PS2. You'd have to be bonkers to go for a full set of PS1 because there's just so many games. But hey, more power to you. Um, but a lot of people will collect full sets for Genesis, Super NES, and NES, which is harder to do today than it was in the past, but it's still not an impossible task. So when people start out collecting video games, they're on a limited budget. They got their Super Nintendo, and the first thing they do is they're gonna grab some of their favorites, Mario, Donkey Kong, Mega Man, Castlevania, etc. They're gonna save up for the expensive ones, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, fucking Earthbound or whatever. They're going to save up for those games. And in the meantime, they're going to pad their library with licensed games that have limited resale value, Cool Spot or, The Jungle Book or whatever. And then they're going to pick up sports games along the way, just for the padding, you know. And a lot of times they're going to have like 17 copies of the same fucking game. They're going to have the yearly Madden releases, the yearly college NCAA releases, etc., etc. Because, if you're going for a full set, that's what you're going for. Now, when I was collecting video games, I actively avoided sports games. Now, I was never going for full sets, except for a couple of systems. I was trying to get a full set on the GameCube, and I would love to. I was trying to get a full set on the Genesis, and I toyed with the idea of getting a full set on the NES a couple of times, but then I quickly abandoned that when I saw how astronomically expensive some of those cartridges were. I was like, never mind, not for me. Now, for me, I define full set as officially licensed U.S. retail releases at the time. So I don't count, aftermarket games, unlicensed games, homebrew games, modern games that are made retro games for the consoles. I don't count those. So I'm not actively seeking a cartridge of Pierre Solar and the Architects or whatever it's called. I'm not going to do that. That game, as far as I'm concerned, is not a real Genesis game. That's a, eShop game that got a Genesis release, but it's also been released on other hardware. So, good for you. If you want it, if you like it, great. But as far as I'm concerned, I've got it on my PS4. That's where it belongs. That's where it stays. I don't need the physical cartridge. That's just me. If I was going for a full set today, I would go the opposite route because I want to get a good collection of numbers quickly. I'm going to start with the sports games because I can buy a shit ton of them for nothing and have a shelf full of games. And I can be like, look at my shelf of games as long as you don't look too closely. Don't read the labels. But as I've learned to appreciate video games as a whole, I have, in sports more in general, and also I learned to appreciate sports as a news reporter. I was a journalist. I went out and actually photographed live sporting events and interviewed athletes and wrote sports stories. I definitely learned to appreciate sports as a thing, as a phenomena. And, in the news business, we learn sports pay the bills. So you gotta, give sports their due. You have to, otherwise you go bankrupt. Which, by the way, newspapers are still going bankrupt, so what are you going to do? I don't know. Shut down Facebook, I guess? I don't know. Aside from doing that, I don't know how to save newspapers, but that's another topic for another day. So yeah, let's talk about the actual games. Because you have sports games come in three flavors. You have the sim, you have the arcade game, and then you have the low budget, spin-off game. Not always low budget, but you have the spin-off game. So let's talk about those. The arcade game is the game that loosely represents the sport, but it's got more action and video gamey features. These would be things like Blades of Steel, NFL Blitz, NBA Jam, games like that. And then you sometimes have home console games that are based on the arcade game style, like Tecmo Bowl, RBI Baseball, etc. Then you have the sim. The sim more or less wants to recreate the game as accurately as possible. The most famous sports sim is John Madden NFL. Madden is the king of sports games. It's like the one that everybody fucking buys. But there are others out there. There have been in the past. NBA Live, College Hoops, NFL Quarterback Club, Although I think Quarterback Club might be more of an arcade style game than a sim. I don't know. I don't remember it very well. And then you have the spin-offs, the games that aren't technically sports games, but they're based loosely on sports. This would be games like Mega Man Soccer or the Mario sports games, Strikers, etc. Games like Mutant League Football, Mutant League Hockey, Backyard Baseball, um, NBA, NFL Street, etc. Games that, you know, resemble a particular sport, but are changed to appeal to, gamers who aren't necessarily into sports games. I know gamers who won't touch NHL hockey to save their life, but they own and regularly play and rant and rave about Mutant League Hockey because it's fun. I know gamers that will not play golf on any system, but they have Mario Golf and they love it to death. And then you have, separate from that, similar to the arcade games, you have the what I call X games, or what used to be called the X games. But I'm not using X games as a brand, I'm using it as a genre or style of game. Stuff like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater or Wave Race, snowboarding, 1080, etc. These games that aren't based on like quote proper sports, team sports or whatever, but they're still athletic based games and they're still kind of sports. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is a big one. Probably the biggest one, but I don't know. I don't follow sports anymore. So I couldn't tell you if they're still making Pro Skater games or not. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I don't care. Now, which sports games have I played in the past? Mostly the arcade games. I do not play Sims. I don't play Madden. I'll play Tech Mobile. I'll play NFL Blitz. I'll play NFL Street. I'll play Mutant League Football. And if they ever did a Mario Rugby Football, US Football, I would jump at the opportunity to play that game. Absolutely. But I'm not going to buy or play fucking Madden NFL Football. And the reason for that is I don't understand the game at all. I know like the basics, the downs, touchdown, the penalties, etc. I know the basics, like the basics. I can watch a football game and I can tell you what's happening and who's winning, but I can't tell you the strategy or the plays or the tricks or anything like that. And when I play a game of Madden NFL Football, I can't win because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing because I don't understand the mechanics of the game. So I'm no good at the Sims, the sim game, the sports Sims, I should say. Madden, NBA 2K, etc. Those types of games. I'm not good at them, so I don't play them. Doesn't mean I haven't bought them in the past and or tried them in the past. I had NBA Live and Madden Football on the GameCube because I was desperate to convince my friends the GameCube was the system they should have bought when they were all ranting and raving about the fucking PS2. And I was like, no, it has Madden, look. And they were like, yeah, that's okay. We've got and then they named off 75 other games that they had that weren't on the GameCube. So yeah, I'm still bitter about that. Nintendo, you should have put a DVD player in the GameCube. That's all I'm saying. For fuck's sake. Anyways. Moving on. As a collector and as a gamer, I do have an interest in some of the side quest games. Like I said, I have an interest in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I have an interest in, NFL Blitz or NBA Jam or Tech Mobile, etc., RBI Baseball, those types of games, because those are games from my childhood that I played, and they were fun, I guess. Not as fun as Castlevania or Mortal Kombat or Shinobi or whatever, but they were, hey, you get bored with Sonic after a while, you got to play something else. Might as well throw on some fucking RBI Baseball. Why not? You got to do something to pass the time. You don't have friends, so what are you going to do? Well, you're going to play video games. Well, that's what I did. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. not one-on-one in-person friends. Most of my friends are people I met over the years on the internet. Um, Still real friends. They're literal, real human beings. So don't tell me they're not real friends because I never met in person. Because you don't have to meet in person for them to be a friend. So I'm throwing that out there. Don't come at me with that bullshit. That being said, yeah, my interest in sports games are wishy-washy at best. Not really, you know, okay, I have the ROMs and the emulators, but I'm not gonna boot up Madden NFL 94 on my Genesis emulator. I'm not gonna do it. Not even out of curiosity. I have no interest in that game. Do I have the ROM on my hard drive? Well, yeah, because it's easier to download the ROM set from the sites than it is to cherry pick individual games because of reasons I'm not going to get into. Mostly Nintendo. Anyways, um, however, if I were in a financial position where I had the space and the time and the money to collect physical video games, and I decided, yeah, I'm going for a game library, and if I decided, yeah, I want to get a full set of the Sega Genesis library, I'll buy the sports games. And like I said, if I'm in a financial position where I can sit down and play my video games, I'm gonna boot up Madden 94 one random weekend and give it a shot. Just because I paid money for it, it's sitting on my shelf. Why not try it out? You know what I mean? Um, Now, sports video games are still massively successful. They're still popular. They make a ton of money, and they make a ton of money for everybody involved. The hardware companies who sell machines to people who only play sports games. They make money for the leagues. They make money for the players. They make money for the sponsors. Adidas, Reebok, etc. They make money for the publishers. EA or whoever else is making them. So there's a lot of money to be made by sports games. And they make money for GameStop and Walmart and everybody else, Amazon, etc. So there's a lot of money to be made. So yeah, it's going to drive the industry because it always has, it always will. Sports drives media. Like I said, sports pay the bills. Um, that's just a fact of life. Love it or hate it, there's nothing you can do about it. That being said, I still have an appreciation for sports games, especially the ones that try different things. Like the aforementioned backyard baseball or NFL Street. I have an appreciation for those games because they're saying, look, I know you're a gamer, you don't like Madden, but you know what? Your friends like football, so why not play this football game so you have something in common with your friends? You know what I mean? So I do appreciate those games for existing because they do serve a purpose. And even though at the time I wasn't that interested in NBA basketball like I am now, like I got into later, I played the shit out of NBA Jam because it was fun and because everybody did. Who didn't play NBA Jam back in the day? Fucking everybody had NBA Jam. It was one of the first games I got for my 32X I just talked about in another video. Yeah, it was one of the first games I got for my 32X. And Sega CD. I had NBA Jam on Sega CD as well. And Genesis and Super NES. You know. Now, do I want a modern game that looks and plays and feels like NBA Jam, but has LeBron James and a bunch of people I've never fucking heard of? No. I want fucking Scottie Pippen and Charles Barkley and the guys I grew up with. I want the version of NBA Jam I played as a kid because to me, that's NBA Jam. You know, put in the cheat code and play as, Bill Clinton. That's fucking hilarious to me. Um, am I gonna rush out and buy NBA Live 2K fucking 24 for PS4? No, not gonna happen. Now I am collecting actively for PS4. I'm not going for a full set. I don't think I'll ever do that for reasons. But I still want to amass a massive library for the PS4. I have declared previously the PS4 is my forever console. I am going to buy games for the PS4 probably till the day I die, or until the day it quits working and I have no choice but to move on. Um, if it quits working and I have the resources to repair it or replace it with one that is working, I'll do that. And at some point in the future, I inevitably will have to hack the machine at some point. That's going to have to happen. And bootleg video games that will not be officially supported anymore. That's inevitable because of the nature of modern game consoles. And you know what? I'll deal with that when the time comes. Until then, I will actively buy video games, mostly off of Amazon or eBay, occasionally other places, and be happy with what I have available to me. But as I do that, as I buy my games for my PS4, I am going to avoid the sports games because I just don't have an interest in sports video games. I just don't. I'll watch, a football game or a hockey game or whatever on Discord with my girlfriend, and we'll talk about it and enjoy it together. But I'm not going to sit down and play a Madden NFL video game. I ain't gonna do it. It's never gonna happen. Stay cool.